You may have seen depictions in the media, or maybe even in real life if you don't pay your taxes, that the IRS is not an organization that you should be messing with. I mean, even the Joker doesn't want anything to do with these guys.
I'm crazy enough to take on Batman, but the IRS? No, thank you.
They also took down Al Capone, the leader of, he was running a little side hustle, what was it called? Oh, that's right, the Mafia, for tax evasion. So who would be crazy enough to take these guys head on? Well, the answer is Scientology. More specifically, David Miscavige, the current leader of Scientology. So today, we're going to be talking about the time that Scientology harassed the IRS into re-giving them their tax exemption status. It's a pretty interesting story, so let's get right into the video. You see, back in the 1950s, Scientology actually held their religious tax exemption status. That was short-lived, and by 1967, it was revoked. Following heavy government scrutiny and actually an FBI raid on the Scientology headquarters, it was deemed that Scientology was nothing more than a money-making scheme. And not only did they lose their tax exemption, but they also lost their religious status in America as a whole. The then leader and founder of Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard, which, fun fact by the way, he actually owns the Guinness Book of World Records for most works published by one author, which is insane, right? Because it's him. He could be lying about it. I don't know. I really didn't do too much research on that. I just thought it was interesting because, you know, quantity over quality, right? Anyways, he decided that he was going to pay the IRS nothing. Not a dime. Just decided, I'm not going to do it. This led Scientology into accumulating a staggering amount of penalties and interest because they weren't paying it. They were just sitting around and collecting all these penalties like goddamn Pokemons. While saving his money from not paying his taxes, he was able to afford to stage a ton of lawsuits, a whole string of lawsuits against the IRS. All of that while engaging in some pretty malicious activities, such as private investigations. So they would hire private investigators, PIs, to go out and follow these IRS agents around and try to find some vulnerabilities. Or just some kind of misconduct that they were doing. They also put up front groups like the National Coalition of IRS Whistleblowers and Citizens for Alternative Tax Systems to publicly attack the agency and advocate for a different tax system. Also, espionage. Yeah, espionage. In the 1970s, the church engaged in criminal conspiracy. They infiltrated government offices, including the IRS. This was to steal documents and also obstruct investigations. This operation was known as Operation Snow White, and it actually resulted in the conviction and imprisonment of some top Scientology members, including L. Ron Hubbard's wife. And though Scientology discredits that this ever happened, they said, okay, it happened, but those people were acting of their own free will. Scientology did not send them to do that. It's a bit hard to deny that that happened because of Scientology when it was only just the top Scientology members and L. Ron Hubbard's wife. I mean, how much closer can you get than that? If it wasn't Scientology saying it to them to go do that, it was just L. Ron Hubbard saying it to them to do that. And so after 30 years, leadership had changed. L. Ron Hubbard died and David Miscavige took over. But the constant bombardment of these IRS agents and administrators didn't. So the IRS just gave up. The IRS gave up. And David Miscavige ended up walking into the IRS headquarters and got a meeting with the commissioner. And that inevitably led to the Church of Scientology receiving its religious tax exemptions again. First off, I don't know how they avoided jail time for 30 years because, I mean, they just weren't paying their taxes. Anyway, by the time they regained their tax exemption status in the 90s, they saved up so much money. They were filthy rich from not paying their taxes, but the penalties and the interest that accrued over that time was much, much higher. We're talking in the billions. The kicker is that if the IRS had just done their job and do what they do to most people, Scientology probably wouldn't exist. It would be gone. It just would not be here. But not only did they not do their job and just let it slide, but they also let the church write their own rules on how their religious status would be viewed. Meaning that anything that they pulled out of their asses in the future would be just considered religious practice. The icing on the cake was when the IRS actually agreed to put pressure on foreign governments to restore their religious status. And they also agreed to stop auditing the Church of Scientology. That means no investigations, nothing else. Just whatever you guys want to do, go ahead, leave us alone, basically. So anyways, yeah, that was the time that the Church of Scientology actually harassed the IRS for decades until they finally just caved and gave in and let them exist. So yeah, if you like this video, go ahead and leave it a like, give it a comment, and subscribe if you want to. It helps the channel out. So yeah, thanks for watching.